Every day there's a new scandal in this misgovernment, but now it's gone way beyond all limits. A character over there in the United States of America, this guy Jeffrey Epstein, involved in shady scandals, the most nefarious ones you can imagine. Globo tried to throw Trump into the eye of the storm in all this, to try to paint Trump as the bad guy. Well, yesterday it came out that Lula talked to this guy who was accused of the most barbaric things. The guy was arrested and died in prison, just like when Lula was also imprisoned. Straight from the federal police cell, he received a visit from a philosopher. That they say and all, he called this guy from the United States the billionaire guy and all. Things keep getting worse for Lula. The situation couldn't be worse, this scandal being leaked through the emails that were reported. Things are really tough for Lula. As if this failure wasn't enough, now this comes up right at this moment. We're going to show everything here. Glenn Greenwald exposed everything in the United States. Look, Lula is in a desperate situation. He's going to need a lot of cover-ups. He's going to need Globo, then Nora, then his son. Guys, this is a well of scandals, serious scandals, this misgovernment. Hit the like button, smash the like button. We'll report everything here tomorrow with lots of news and information. This guy here, right? That's Jeffrey Epstein, right? Accused of things more bizarre than you can imagine. Sexual trafficking. And the leaked email indicates his contact with Lula. The document was released in the United States Congress, mentioning Lula's connection with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, things get even more sinister. One of the emails from financier Jeffrey Epstein, who was convicted of sexual crimes and died in 2019, mentions a phone call between him and Lula. According to the document, which is circulating on social media and in the press, the communication was allegedly mediated by the American linguist and leftist, Noam Chomsky. This guy was here in Brazil. He came here to visit Lula in prison while Lula was incarcerated. He came here, right? The content is part of the file identified as 027406. The document is part of a collection of over 20,000 pages of messages and records related to the Epstein case. The data became public this week through a committee of the House of Representatives in the United States. Who knows if they didn't leak them on purpose? Right now, just to put Lula in the hot seat, right? Here, look. See his name? Chomsky calls Lula, right? In the message written in English, it says, "The tycoon says that Chomsky connected me with Lula." In this case, Epstein, he mentions it there in the emails from prison. Now, that's a fact, right? Interesting. I didn't know you could make calls when someone was in prison, but apparently you could do all that, right? With Lula, anything was possible. Bolsonaro is at home and can't access social media. He can't post anything on social media. Lula could, Bolsonaro can't. Bolsonaro is incommunicado. We know very well why. Because now, especially with how desperate they are, trying to cover up these scandals, these atrocities that are happening in every possible way. If Coeste is putting Bolsonaro in a technical tie with Lula, just imagine their desperation. Because in other polls, Bolsonaro passed him long ago. But according to Coeste, the technical tie already exists. Yes, Coeste. And we get used to talking about Coeste, my friends, even though investigations should have happened a long time ago. How many years have these guys been manipulating society here, and they can't even hide it anymore? Lula's social communication office stated in a note that the mentioned phone call never happened. Of course they're going to deny it. The advisory team did not say if Lula knows Epstein or if they've ever met. Left-wing lawmakers in the United States obtained documents investigating Epstein's connections with public figures from different countries. The billionaire had a vast network of contacts among politicians, academics, and business people, including after his first conviction for child exploitation back in 2008 when Lula was still president. The release of the files happened after the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Epstein's estate to hand over correspondence and financial records. The documents include exchanges of messages with Ghislaine Maxwell, the financier's former partner, who is also currently in prison, and with the writer Michael Wolff, author of books about Donald Trump. According to the committee, some of this material here suggests that Epstein was seeking to maintain influence over public figures. In some emails, he claims businessman Donald Trump knew about the crimes. The White House accused Democrats of politicizing the case. President Trump expelled Jeffrey from his club. These stories are bad faith attempts. In other words, they kept targeting Trump, who had a relationship with this tycoon and so on. And now Lula shows up. I'll show it here. Andrea Saad was desperate to incriminate Trump. Before that, yesterday afternoon, at the COP, Saad was there with Trump, Jeff Epstein, the guy accused of exploiting minors and all that. Then, late afternoon, Lula's email was released, right? At that meeting, because yes, that call they had, right? Jeffrey was an American financier, accused of running an international network of child exploitation. Arrested in 2019, he died in his New York cell a month later while awaiting trial. Authorities consider the death a suicide, but the circumstances raise suspicion. Epstein maintained connections with politicians, businessmen, and influential academics, which led to a series of investigations into the extent of his relationships and the involvement of public figures in his crimes. Did Lula comment here? Regarding the available report, Lula's contact email with the billionaire, who was accused of sexual crimes, clarified that this information is not accurate. He'll deny it, but all the data is right here, see? Glenn ended up exposing everything. He exposed absolutely everything. It's been known for a long time that Noam Chomsky, the one who arranged the call between Lula and Epstein, had a friendship with Jeffrey. Chomsky admitted and defended this relationship. What we didn't know was that when Chomsky visited Lula in prison in 2018, he called Epstein so that he and Lula could talk. Epstein stated this. Look at the email, right here, his email, sent directly. Chomsky called me to talk to Lula directly from prison. Is that right here? Here is the proof. Samuel Puncher Metropolis, Samuel, who has also been spreading the word. This right here, huh? I found the documents released by Democrats in the United States Congress. In 2018, Epstein mentioned in an email from Jeffrey that he got a call about Lula. So, again, Chomsky, the American writer, when he visited Lula in prison. Here, look, this was the day of the meeting. Here, look.
This one. This is Chomsky here, who mediated the connection between Lula and that Epstein guy.
It's an international scandal, and now Lula is involved. It was a wonderful experience. Here, proof of the day he was here. And then, more facts started coming up, right, my friends, right? Look at the people here. Look. Bolsonaro likes Lacta, but Lula prefers Garoto, right? The internet never rests, right? Showing it there. Because the guy was calling, right? Getting in touch with the guy who exploits. Intense trafficking is happening, and all of it was proven in the United States. What intrigues us is that Globo was already desperate yesterday. Guys, man, one day these people will still have to pay for these atrocities. It's not possible. These guys talk about so much nonsense. A television license is public. They owe explanations to society. And they lie. They put people in their scheme to try to do absolutely anything to keep this regime. Globo, guys, is just too nefarious. The work that this person does, man, Andrea Saad, is just absurd. Look here, Lula News. Way too worried about the lies about Trump and Epstein. They did a story yesterday over there. Trump is involved, but I don't know how. Later, Lula appeared. For you all on my big screen, you see parts of these emails. How are you viewing the full content?
Only after this measure, if it gets approved. The Speaker of the House is saying that this could happen next week. But we've already had access to some of these emails. The victim spent hours at my house with him.
Are you also going to show the part about Trump, about Lula? Sad, not that, right? You kept pushing the narrative. Would you have understood what was happening? Guys, this is criminal. It's criminal. It's criminal. Not a word. I haven't seen Globo report on this major scandal involving their daddy yet. And guys, it's such a clear thing. What's happening? You know what makes us even more outraged? What about our congressmen? I know there are many fronts to fight on, but they were elected for this. Not to work on a project where governments are prohibited from transferring public money to television stations, newspapers, and radio stations. It's outrageous. That's what we need to work on. From the moment a government is forbidden from giving money to a broadcaster, this nonsense ends. It ends. We're supporting it indirectly. We're supporting the luxury of Andrea Assad. So they can keep lying here, creating narratives 24 hours a day. What do you mean supporting? Of course, guys. From the moment you pay taxes, the government takes it and passes it on to them. You're funding them and the artists, regardless of these laws. And the more you fund them, the more they want to censor. Did you see what they're passing in the chamber? The bill. Now they won't need the judiciary, so they can take down information that goes against the narratives they want to push. Our representatives should fight for this. There, at President Bolsonaro's door, what's the point of saying you support him, that you're with him, that you don't know what, that you're with Bolsonaro? I'm only seeing Helio Negón there every day. It's absurd, because we spend billions of reais on advertising for these nefarious people here. That's why, man, this place looks like a parrot house. It's for Bolsonaro, it's for Trump, Lula is innocent, Lula is better, Lula is the president, Lula is the Partido dos Trabalhadores, Lula is ours. Everybody makes money in Brazil. It's the world's richest country. I don't know what. Stay, Miriam Leitão, Natuza, Neri. I know it's annoying, but this has to be said. Even Glenn is exposing it. Even Glenn Lula is exposing it. Absolutely everything. Partido dos Trabalhadores supporters are already desperately trying to cover it up. Here it is, look, in the past, back in the past, right? The Partido dos Trabalhadores supporter is asking when the list of famous Brazilians on Epstein's island will be released. He once lived on an island doing terrible things. When will the famous Brazilians list be released? So yesterday when it came out, he already posted it here. Look, not everyone who's in Epstein's circle is involved in the Philia scheme. He donated a lot of money to universities, right? That gave him access to a lot of professors and scientists. They're already making excuses. Here, people on the internet are asking for Moleque Lula. Then we remember something that happened, right? In fact, it was reported by Reynaldo Azevedo, that blogger who switched sides and is now more pro-Lula. Because it's obvious, right? It's the Brazilian Social Democracy Party. He, Vila, and Vera Magalhães were from that wing, but had to join the Partido dos Trabalhadores. He mentioned the boy from Movimento de Emancipação do Proletariado in 1980 when Lula was arrested and shared a cell with João Batista dos Santos. In a conversation with a friend, when saying that he couldn't stand being without Chaka Chaka na Buchaka, here it is. Look. The video.
You were in jail, weren't you, Cezinha?
I was
How long?
a few years.
I couldn't handle it. I can't live without booze.
The things, that, everything was revealed by the Movimento de Emancipação do Proletariado boy, Reynaldo Azevedo himself.
Of the proletariat. Joãozinho, referenced by Lula, is João Batista dos Santos, who Reinaldo Azevedo says is married with 8 children and lives on São Paulo's coast. With a pension as a former guerrilla,
This Joãozinho from the Movimento de Emancipação do Proletariado and so on, he receives a pension of almost 7,000 reais for being a former guerrilla. They were all together in the same cell.
this account was published by Folha de São Paulo in an investigative article in 2019 by Veja magazine and by the blogger Reinaldo Azevedo. Lula continued.
I was surprised by the boy's resilience.
I won't cover the rest since you already know it, right? That house is falling apart. They'll need plenty of Bolsonaro to support their narrative. Share this video on WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, and hit like. Come join our family by subscribing to the channel. Soon, there will be more news and information here on the Pés e Fios channel.